let's go.
Hi, Kat Chancellor here with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I have a birthday card that is a box easel card that will measure, when folded, will be 6 by 6. And it is an easy project. It has several layers, and I'll get into that. But I'm going to be using the Changing Leaves bundle and embossing folder, since it is a birthday card for someone who has a birthday in the month of October. So I thought this is a wonderful theme for a birthday card. It's kind of nice. You open it up. I love this sentiment here. I'll show you the stamp set. I think it's sweetly scripted, and it features some, we're going to do some watercoloring for the leaves. I have some vellum background. That particular sentiment I found after I did my paper pumpkin, and it's called Time for Cake, and I used that stamp for the front of my card for that medallion. I also used the Spotlight on Nature dies to create my layers for my medallion. You see how nice that looks there. I used the basic 3D embossing folders to create some texture on my layers, and I used the Changing Leaves hybrid embossing folder for my vellum background piece, which really looks nice. And it also can be used, since it's a hybrid embossing folder, the inside, it has this wonderful, very deep embossing, but you can use it with the die to cut out these pieces in watercolor that I'm going to show you how we colored them, and you can see how nice they come out. I also am going to use some of my favorite distress spray in Rusty Hinge and Vintage Photo, just to add a little bit more dimension to our watercolor leaves. Now I'm going to pull in Cajun Craze and Copper Clay as my ink colors when we get to do the watercolor technique for our leaves. And I'm also using gold embossing powder for my sentiment. And here is my sweetly scripted stamp set and my embossing folders, my 3D basic embossing folders that I used for my layers. Now, in the process of putting this card together, I did have some extra pieces, so we're going to have a little bonus. We're going to create a couple of extra cards here using some of those extra elements as part of this tutorial. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's go ahead and get started. This project has a lot of layers, and I'm going to have them right here on the side so you can see them. You're going to need a basic white piece, an 8.5 by 6. You will need to cut 2 pieces 6 inches square, and you're also going to need to cut some gold foil pieces that are going to serve as layers, and a piece of vellum 5.5 by 5.5 square that's going to be layered. And these are the layers for the box portion of our easel card, and then these are the layers for the inside of the card, and those dimensions are right there. Now you're going to bring in your scoreboard, and you're going to take your 8.5 by 6 piece, and you're going to score at 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at 8 inches. And then you're going to bring in one of the 6 by 6 square, and you're going to score that at 3. Now take your 8.5 by 6 piece and go ahead and miter that top piece right there, because that is going to join with one of our other 6 by 6 inch panels. and then use your bone folder to go ahead and make sure that you crisp all your folds. And you're going to end up with, you have 4 folds, and we're going to fold them and create our box for our easel. And I've just got to make sure that this lines up, and there you go, and use my bone folder to make sure that everything is square. Now when you look at that, when you fold them over, you should see 2 folds looking at you, and you got 2 folds on the bottom. You've got the 2 score pieces and then 2 score pieces, so there's 4 panels. So in order to create our box fold, you're going to have 2 of the panels looking at you, and then you're going to fold those 2 panels over one more time, and that's going to create our box fold. So take your glue, and on the middle, that second panel, just add your glue to that long second panel there. And then I'm just going to use my finger to kind of spread it to make sure I get the corners. And then go ahead and then fold it over. See, you've got the 4 panels, you've got 2 panels, and fold it over, and then go ahead and use your bone folder just to kind of let that glue set and crease all your seams, and that creates your box easel. And you can see you have your top flap. Now for the top flap, you're going to take that other piece of 6x6 cardstock that you scored at 3 inches, and you're going to use your bone folder to crease that, and you're going to put that, turn it upside down so the tent portion is facing you, and then put the glue on the tab right there, and then put the edge with that tent portion facing you, and line up your corners and press that, and that tent portion is what's going to create kind of the inside of your easel. That's going to fold over and create your easel. But then you're going to take your larger piece, and you're going to adhere that larger piece to that top part of your tent right there. You can see I have the glue, so that as that tent portion folds over, you're going to go ahead and put your glue. That's the portion that's facing you, and then you're going to line that 6x6 piece of cardstock to the bottom edge of that tent portion, and then that creates your easel, your easel foundation. There you go. Then you can fold that up, and that's how it folds to create your 6x6 card. So you unfold it, and then it's going to stand up, and then we're going to build those layers for the inside, so you won't see any of those seams. And now we're going to go ahead and get the rest of our pieces together so we can decorate it. So I have my dies and my hybrid embossing folder. And the neat thing about this hybrid embossing folder is that you not only can emboss, but you can cut at the same time. So we're going to take a piece of watercolor paper, and it's going to measure 6x6, and we're going to put that on the inside of our embossing folder, and then we're going to grab the larger die that comes with this set, and you kind of move it around, and it will, there it is, it clicks right in, it kind of just holds right in. And then you put your 6x6 piece of watercolor paper, and it will come out with these really pretty leaf designs. Now I like to take advantage of everything that this folder offers, so I will grab my scissors and I will cut some extra leaves, and that's kind of where I can come up with just some extra pieces and parts for my projects, because once you do it, you just might as well go the distance and do as much as you can, because you can set these aside and they're at the ready for making cards in the future. So I just like to sit down and just kind of work assembly line and cut my leaves, and I'll do the same when I color them. Now you will need a size F acrylic block, and I covered my workspace with some paper towels and then a sheet of the stamping paper. I'm going to pull in my ink pads, and I'm using crushed curry and copper clay, and I'm just going to use my lighter color first on my acrylic block, and then I'm going to use my darker color. And I have a spray bottle, spritzing bottle, and I'm just going to kind of mix those colors up, and then all I do is I take the leaf and I just kind of put it upside down into the water, and the watercolor paper will absorb that. Now you can play with this, because I like to use like an aqua brush to kind of spread some of the ink around, and if I want more yellow, I can add more yellow to it, and just kind of play with the leaves, move them around. So I just like to have fun with the process. I like to use the aqua painter to kind of spread some of the color around, or I can add the color directly to my leaves and then just kind of dump it into the acrylic block and just kind of see what kind of colors I'm getting from my technique. So we're using watercolor paper, and I don't really want to saturate the paper, which is kind of why the water painter is very useful. And I want to kind of blot a little bit of the water off, as you can see what I'm doing, because if you get the watercolor paper too saturated, you will lose some of that pattern that the embossing folder embossed on the paper, because the paper will absorb water, it'll swell up, and you lose that distinct pattern. So this is where I take the ink and I just add it directly to my block. I don't put a lot of water, just enough so that it just kind of is a little bit smeary, and I'm going to press my leaves onto that ink, and what I'm trying to do is to get that pattern back that I may have lost when I was doing my original, adding the color to it. And there you have a little bit more contrast between the color that you've added and the pattern from the embossing folder. So now I'm just going to lay out all my leaves, and I'm going to use my Distress Oxide sprays and just kind of spray, and I can blot them. Just kind of see what kind of a effect I get. And then to finish them off, I'm just going to take my water painter and just go around the edges where there may be white. In some cases that the white may look great, that may be the effect you're going for. In other cases it may not be. Because these are going on a very white background, I want to ensure I have as much contrast as possible. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make sure that all my edges are painted. So you can see how nice they all came out. Just going to spread them, and I'm also going to be cutting out using the other dies with my gold foil, because these will be layered to create the front of my card. I'm also adding some crushed curry, and I believe I'm also adding some white basic white cardstock as well. I'm going to begin assembling my layers, some of which are embossed, some of which I'll have to emboss. I'm going to begin with this piece of gold foil which measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and the vellum is going to be cut to 5.5 by 5.5 square, and that's going to lay on top of the gold. I'm going to adhere it using glue dots so as to not have any liquid glue show up behind the vellum. Now I'm just going to pull in one of my embossing folders, and I'm going to take the 3 basic white strips that are going to cover my box easel. I'm also going to pull in my Spotlight of Nature dies, and I'm going to use the dies for my sentiment. Only I do miscalculate here, and I chose a size that's going to be too large to put on the front of my card, because you have to ensure that you stay within the 6x6 frame. So I picked a very large piece of gold foil, as you can see there, and I'm going to go ahead and emboss my sentiment there, but I'm going to use that on another card later on in this tutorial. I just kind of want to point it out. I'm going to have to restamp it using a much smaller die so that it will fit within the 6x6 frame of our card. Okay, so I just want to show you, there's my large medallion. Now when I take my card and I fold it, my medallion should fit on the front of my box easel, and you see how high up that medallion is? It doesn't fit within the frame of the 6x6 card. So, what I had to do was I had to go back to my Spotlight on Nature dies. I had to pull out another size, and I had to make a new medallion that would fit, and there it is right there. That will fit. I can move it down a little bit, but that's the key to the card, is that you have to make sure, if you're going to use a medallion, that it's going to have to fit within the frame of the card. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So that's where I'm just going to take that medallion and we're going to make another card with it. So I found a 2 3/4 circle punch was perfect for my medallion, and that is what I'm going to use for the front of my card. Now for that white piece of cardstock on the inside, you can see the edge, both edges of that card have been embossed using the embossing folder. And what that does, it just kind of gives it a little bit more finish, because it's such a long piece of white cardstock that on the top I have that beautiful sentiment that goes all the way across that white piece of cardstock. So the bottom just kind of adds just a little bit of extra touch. So I'm going to combine some of my leaf elements, some that were cut with the dies and the others that we colored, and just kind of play around. And I'm going to use the rule of 3. I'm just going to use the large leaf, a smaller die cut leaf, and then a piece cut out of the gold foil. And then I'm going to tie some satin ribbon, gold satin ribbon, that is going to kind of accent, as well as I'm going to add a little sprig to kind of the back of the leaves there, just to kind of add a little bit more contrast. And then I'm going to glue everything directly to my vellum. And then my ribbon is going to be attached with some glue dots right at the base of my arrangement. I'm also going to add some embellishments, some gold embellishments, just to kind of give it just a little bit more interest, and glue it onto my card. And there you go. Now we're going to quickly put together our other 2 cards using the vellum and the gold foil, and I'm just using a regular card that will measure 5.5 by 4.25. My gold foil cardstock measures 5 1/4 by 4, and then my vellum is 5 3 3/4. I'm going to use some of the adhesive paper to put on the back of my vellum instead of the glue dots, just for another technique that you can use with vellum. It kind of gives a little bit of a different look, because as you stick the vellum with the adhesive stick on the back, it kind of makes the background look a little darker. Now I had a little bit of a slice there, and I just added some tear tape to kind of cover that up, and that ensured that my entire vellum sheet was covered. And then I just basically place it on my gold foil, and I'm going to use my bone folder to press it onto the paper. Since these are autumn birthday cards, I'm going to go ahead and continue my theme. I'm going to use my sweetly scripted stamp set for my happy birthday. It's going to be both on the front and on the inside of my card. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put together my outside decorative elements. And I'm just going to let you watch the cards come together. So there you go. I think I've given you plenty of inspiration and ideas for coming up with some autumn birthday cards using the Changing Leaves bundle, the hybrid embossing folder, to not only give you a beautiful background but also to cut out and color the design elements for the front of your cards. You have several versions. You have the large box easel card as well as some smaller cards that will just wow any recipient who gets them. If you haven't already, please hit like. All products are available on my online store, and there will be a link below. Please go to my blog for project details. And if you're looking for a demo, please consider joining my team. Consider joining as a hobbyist for $99 and enjoy a 20% discount. If you are a demo and you like my content, please support my channel by hitting like, share, and leave a comment. This is Kat Chancellor wishing you a happy autumn. And if you have a birthday this month, a happy birthday. Happy stamping.